Marianne, welcome. It's good to see you again.
Thank you.
So I brought Marianne to South Africa years ago when I think a few years after we'd launched ECL, where we did some work here with the schools and teachers. And it's a great memory. And then later on, we brought Marianne to our conference in Marianne Franke, our conference in England, where she did some more work with us. So really feeling privileged to be interviewing you today, and I'm looking forward to the session. So welcome and thank you for giving of your time to all of us this morning. So what I'd like to ask you, Marianne, is tell us about your history and your journey that you have taken in the field of family constellations.
Yeah, I did it very often. I was teacher in secondary schools, and after 15 years, I thought I have to move, and I learned how do you call it, naturopathy? Yeah,
Naturopathy.
Heilpraktiker. Yeah. And I passed the state exam, and then I was allowed to be a therapist. Yeah, and after that I did 3 years my own psychotherapy, and after this step I was trained in a special class for analysis, for Jungian analysis. Many different trainings followed that. For example, primal therapy, body experiences, brief therapy, and also trainings at the Family Therapy Institute in Heidelberg with Helm Stierlin and Gunther Weber. Probably a few of you know them. And they had just returned from Palo Alto, where they had developed family therapy together with other therapists, with Gregory Bateson, Virginia Satir, Paul Watzlawick, and so on. So they brought their wisdom to Germany. 1979, more than 40 years ago, I discovered Bert Hellinger with his seminars for therapist supervisions. And I joined him in trainings and seminars really for more than 15 or 20 years. Yeah. And I saw how he developed constellation work. He was just in the beginning as well. Yeah. And during that time, I was teaching at school, still teaching. And in my classes, I realized all that truth, also the drama of families, which Bert Hellinger had discovered with his clients, and for whom he tried to find a healing picture which changed their attitudes. Even though I was preparing me for a new life, a life task as a psychotherapist, my work at school got a new direction. I could see the truth of the systemic family rules that Hellinger has formulated, and we sometimes many therapists. Is there something wrong? No.
It went off a little bit, but yes, carry on.
Many therapists thought he was old-fashioned, and we live now in another world, a new world. But after many experiences at school with the students, I could accept that there is a deeper truth in each of us which cannot be discussed. the deepest bond we have with mother and father. Hellinger called it at that time Urliebe, or which means original love, and the deepest secret, which is the binding for all human beings. That was so impressive for me when I saw it at school. Many other rules followed this truth. Children feel well whenever they can appreciate their parents as the bigger ones, he always said. And many, many other insights about family dynamics, which appear and work, whether we believe it or not. I saw that students often were not able to study. They endured the fate of their family. That was hard enough for them. No space for studying. The children also belong to their family system, even if they sit in class.
Thank you. Marianne, what I wanted to ask you is tell us what inspired you, or what was your history in education with Constellation? What inspired you to, or attracted you to the work, to taking this into schools?
Yeah, you know, at school, students need a teacher, not a psychotherapist. Yeah? However, I knew a lot of their pain, and I tried to find a lot of stories and experiences for changing their attitudes. For me, as their teacher, was most important to tell them that my heart is open for all of them and for their parents. And at least they loved me for that, because many of them had just started to close up their hearts for the parents. So I stayed as a teacher for further 10 years at school. And under the systemic view, I learned what is really happening with children at school. When they collide with the school system.
Yeah. And you spoke about, there was an amazing story from your book when the children were coming to school and talking badly about the parents, and what you did to bring them. Can you just tell us the story, how you brought them back to honoring their parents? You told a beautiful story about that, and the parents were phoning you.
Do you think this a story which touched me most?
Yeah.
Yeah. I could tell you many stories which touched me, but I take this one. While Bert Hellinger developed his kind of family constellation, he talked a lot about the healing power. When we bow in front of somebody, for example, who passed away too early or was forgotten, or who was excluded from the family, or whom we only want to honor. This healing power in the bow. And, you know, in Germany, people don't bow. Those kids who came from Asia, we had many refugees from Asia, they knew what that was, but not a Munich girl or boy. So once I bowed myself in front of the class. Yeah, I did it. And I said, I'm bowing in front of you. We are human beings and we stay here together. Nothing else. And first, the students couldn't accept that, what I did. Teachers don't bow in front of their students. That is not good. And I said, I did it. And I said, there is a basic level, and on this level, we are all equal. And I bow in front of your parents as well. That was the summit, the biggest challenge for them. Yeah, they wanted to talk about how terrible their parents are, but I remained to that what I have said. And after a while, I suggested that one or a few of them can make this experience and bow in front of the class. After a while, a few brave students wanted to do it. So I proposed, you can do it here every morning. You wait until your schoolmates are quiet, and then you do it. And after a few students had done it, they realized that there was a while of silence in class. They never had experienced before. It lasted only for 1 or 2 minutes, but they wanted to know more about this phenomenon. So we started a conversation about dignity, and that bowing is to pay respect for our human dignity. From that on, they wanted to do this every morning, and they did it until the end of this class. Shortly after this first bowing, parents started to phone me. They couldn't believe what their children told them. They also had the idea that I could not respect them because they are bad parents and cannot educate their children well. What shall I answer? I answered, even if you think not to be good parents, I have deep respect. You are doing the most important job in life. You raise and accompany children, and you do it as good as you can. And during the following weeks, the chemistry of relationship between me and parents changed. And I could feel it in class. Also, the chemistry in class between me and the students, and also the students to each other, changed.
Yeah.
And what was the essence of this, of the changing, was confidence. Confidence came. Yeah, they could rely on each other. But there is one inner truth that this experiment can work. Yeah. At that time, I myself was in peace with my own parents. I let them be how they are. I was only their child and full of thanks for my life. That is the inner truth. When you want to work systemically in class, being in peace with your own parents.
Yeah. Thank you. That's a very, and it just takes me back to that little, that visualization we did even before. It seems so apt now.
Yeah.
It's a very powerful story.
Yeah.
It's a story that we've been telling, I think, in the last, and listening into, of this notion of really acknowledging and respecting those that come before, but also the parents of the children, and the difficulty. What I've often heard you talk about is a difficulty when a teacher comes into the classroom and their heart is not open to their own families, actually, and then they can't relate to the families of the children. So I think that was, for me, one of the greatest insights that I took in the lessons for ECL, and the teachings that we've been bringing to, you know, to the teachers and parents that come into the lives of ECL. So what I wanted to ask you now, Marianne, if you wanted to give us a gift today of a message, or what would you have liked to have known? In other words, what would you, looking back now in your career, what is the message you could give to all teachers and parents? A gift, in other words, as a message that you could give to everybody to empower them. What would that be?
Yeah, that is this truth we just are talking about. Yeah, the truth that our hearts shall mostly be open for families, love, and the bindings, even if the state of development of some families seem to be hopeless.
Yeah.
Not to finish with them. Yeah, to be open. Yeah. For this hopeless state. I remember Bert. We very often ask him about that, and he said, each fate, how hopeless it seems to be, is worth and equal with another fate, which is very brilliant. It is of equal value. And he told this very often. We cannot, but we always have to swallow it, yeah, because it's no easy food.
Yeah. This is, but it makes me breathe out when you say that. You know, when it's definitely, it makes me breathe out. Thank you. What a gift.
I want to add here something, if it is possible. Sometimes you come into class and your heart cannot open because something happened before. Yeah. And what shall we do then as teachers? We tell it to the kids. In German, we have the proverb, mit mir ist heute nicht gut Kirschen essen. That means you cannot eat cherries with me today. Yeah. And I remember a day when I wrote it at the blackboard. Yeah. And the children, the students, they realized at once something happened, and they asked me, do you not talk with us anymore? And And I said, not now, please. I give you some work, and you may work with each other, and let me be. So they could do it, and after 2 hours, 2 lessons, we had the break. I was outside in the break, the girls and boys as well. I stood with my colleagues, and suddenly I saw 2 or 3 girls went out of the schoolyard, and I was so, you know, what is it? I don't know the word. Which? Yeah. I did not want that they do it. Yeah. You know? So I. But I also couldn't cry and say, stay here. I did not do that. Let them go on. At the end of the break, these girls came back with big sacks. So something, they had bought something. So we went to class, and when the students were sitting, those girls came up to me, and I just wanted to say, "Oh, I have to shout with you because you left during the break. You left the yard and so on." And then they said, "Oh, please, Mrs. Franke, will you eat cherries with us?" And they had bought 2 sacks of cherries. That's
wow. Amazing.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Mhm.
So what questions are you still holding? I mean, is there still something that you hold as a question?
Yeah.
In
Yeah, the question is what I'm still holding when I know that something happens in family and I see the child acting and fighting at school. Yeah, how can I keep my attitude as a teacher, and how can I have respect, especially for this child and the family?
Yeah.
That is, that is an everlasting question. Yeah. This is our task, yeah. Because teachers are teachers, no therapists. I'm helpless with that, yeah.
Yeah.
And it is so good when we as teachers are able to feel our helplessness. Okay.
Wow, fantastic. Sure, very touching stories, Marianne. And just want to also remind everyone that there's lots of stories in your book. You're one of us.
Yeah, which you mean the main story from the book?
Well, yes. Well, you can tell a little bit about that, the main story. But what I'm telling everybody here who's listening in that there's lots of stories in your book, even more stories that you have told, beautiful stories in your book.
This one from bowing. No, that is not in the book. No.
No,
Oh, there are many stories who are
yes.
not in the book.
Did you want to share one more with us?
One more. Yeah, it was really a following story after we started with that bowing. Yeah, I said to them, "Oh, you also could bow in front of your parents sometimes. Is that in the book? No? Egal. And they said, no child will bow in front of a parent. And I said, you just can try. It is sometimes you break a pattern and then something happens. Yeah, we know that from the pattern breaking. Yeah. So I forgot it. And after a few weeks, a little boy came up to me and said, "Oh, Mrs. Franke, I did it. Yeah, what have you done? I bowed in front of my father." "How did you do it?" "Oh," he said, "my father was lying on the sofa and he had his feet up and he was looking to sports in television, and I bowed. And I saw how the boy was becoming slower and slower. And I say, and what? Then my father reached out with one leg and what is it, struck me, or yeah, and said, "What are you doing here? Yeah, only with one leg. So what are you doing here?" And he said, "Oh, I'm bowing in front of you because my teachers had said that is good for everybody." Then was silence. And the boy was very, well, how do we call it, nervous, yeah? And then I said, yeah, and then after a while, my dad got up from the sofa and hugged me.
Oh,
And
wonderful.
a few tears
Oh,
came out of his eyes. But that is not the end of the story. The end is at the end of the term in July in Munich. We had games and festivities, yeah. And this, the father of this boy appeared, yeah. And I said, "Oh, that is nice that you are coming." He said, "Yes, it's the first time that I stay here in this school," and the boy was already in the 6th class. Yeah? So, do you like it? Yes, I like it. It's very nice. But, and that was a big but, yeah. And he took me in a corner of the room and slowed down with his voice, and he said, "But that with the bow, that was not good, Mrs. Franke." And I said, "Why? You did the right thing. You hugged your boy." He told it to me. And you know what this man answered? He said, "Mrs. Franke, I had hit my boy so often that I didn't know whether I could take him in my arms anymore." That is the end of the story. Yeah. And I never can forget this. This shame which kept him off from his boy. And the boy told to me, "Mrs. Franke, you know, my father hugged me. That was so good. And do you know what was the reason? Because I hugged in front of him. I bowed in front of him. He could understand all the story perfect. Yeah, that is also one.
very touching.
Yeah,
Beautiful story.
yeah, yeah.
Wow. It's a very rich conversation. Thank you.
Yeah.
Question has come up on chat. If you'd like to answer it, is it okay, Janet?
Yeah, there's some
Yeah, there's one point.
wants to make another point, and then I will come to the question.
Yeah, you ask the question.
Yeah, I will answer. Is there something else? You said another point before I ask?
Yeah, still holding the question, how to talk with parents. How to talk with parents.
Yeah.
And how to give them the feeling of trust. Yeah. Because parents also have their own experiences and they carry them from their own time of being students. Yeah. And trust between school and home is the most important attitude we have to. It is our, what is it? Our aim, our target. Yeah. So.
Building trust.
Yeah. Yeah.
Most important. Yeah. Marianne, I have some questions. Are you ready to? I will tell you the questions. Can you answer some?
No. Yeah.
Yeah. Carry on.
Yeah.
So there's somebody here who says that there's a difficult balance you have to strike as a teacher between your role as a teacher and a substitute parent and therapist. Some thoughts or advice. So how do you bring a balance of your role as a teacher, but almost feeling like a substitute parent and therapist?
Yeah, that is a very important question. And I have a text here. I made it exactly for this question, even if I didn't know that you. How to recognize the difference in relationship quality between a parent and a child relationship, yeah, no substitute, yeah, and teacher-student relationship. At school, I said I see behind each student their parents. So it was clear the parents are invisible present. Yeah. Is it that what you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. And with the teachers who are in my trainings, yeah, I always make a following experience. I ask them to go a little bit in trance, to be in their body. You may do that also now, and only exhale completely and let your breast widen after that, and let the air in. And you may let your eyes open or allow them to shut. Everything is okay. And meanwhile, you will take a little journey back into your youth or your childhood, and let a school scene appear before you, and realize how old are you? Are you just a youngster, 14, 15 years, or are you a child, 8, 6, or 10 years? And remember that you have not done your homework with a particular teacher. And probably you remember this teacher. And you have to tell him, or if it's a woman, her, I did not do my homework. You are standing in front of this person. And now feel your body. How does your body feel? And you just have to confess. Feel your arms, your hands, your legs, your head. What happens to you now? Are you scared? Are you trembling? Do you feel guilty? Or do you want to lie? Do you resist? Do you know any relationship where this feeling is similar? And now, let something extraordinary happen. Something that you have not experienced before. Something that you have never experienced before. The teacher does not ask. He does not rebuke. He or she puts his left arm in your direction and makes like a circle and invites you to stand on her left side. She shows it with the movement of her arm. Come to my left side. Come, stand to the side of my heart. And leave as much distance from me as you want.
Yeah.
Now you stand on your teacher's left side, maybe half a yard away or 3 feet, as you wish. Turn your neck a little to the right. Look at the teacher. How do you feel now? Standing at the side of the teacher, standing at the side of the teacher's heart. Has your feeling changed? Have you calmed down? Or are you still trembling? Has your resistance dissolved? And the teacher asks, when do you bring the work? And what do you say now? That is the end of the story, of this trance. And now you may ask questions. I'm open.
Oh, that was very powerful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Probably one or two of you want to share what she or he said to the teacher.
Mm-hmm. So we have a question, and it's a very similar question.
Yeah.
One before, where I see Reggie is talking about a South African teacher who attended a conference yesterday and asked, the question is, what happens where children are orphaned and the teacher finds herself playing the teacher and parent role? And what you just demonstrated now in that visualization is the answer, right? Yeah.
Yeah. It is really important. You know, in the classrooms in earlier times, teachers were standing at the blackboard and they facing the class, yeah, and it was like like a everlasting battle between them. And now that is dissolved, and we stand as soon as we can. We should stand beside a student, and always like that the student can stay at your heart side. And that means I'm a human being like you, and this time here at school, I accompany you with me. If you want, you can decide to learn with me.
Yeah.
And you be free. You are free. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not taking the place of your mother. We've seen a lot of those exercises we've done with teachers where you just shift them into the right place next to the child, not in the position of a parent, how a parent stands in front of it. And it makes a huge difference. So it's a very simple but important movement. Yeah.
Yeah. But the same, we realize, for example, with colleagues or friends, you have colleagues, they only want to face you, yeah? And it never is a good speech, never a good communication.
Yeah.
And you know that, yeah. And then you try to go at their side. However, I did this experiences also with the children at school, yeah, with the students, and all the class was crying when one boy was the elder one, and the younger one was standing on the right side. They cried and say, "Go on the left side," and he is you are younger than him, and he's the older one. All that, yeah. And
put a place, and yeah.
Yeah, we shall do these experiences. We see in the constellation work. We have to put them in our daily life.
Yeah. And so somebody asks a question: do you have suggestion for people who teach young adults, like university students who are just starting to be independent from their families? So young adults, who now are leaving their families,
and they
university.
cannot learn. They stuck. Yeah.
I'm imagining, let's just ask this person, and they can just put themselves off mute. It's Logan. Is it that these children, these adults are stuck? Which is from Logan Sparks.
I'm not worried about them being stuck, just generally how to work with these students who are in transition, university students, because it's so different from working with little children.
Yeah.
But I would like to help them learn better, because a lot of them, maybe they're not stuck, but they're very distracted because they have new freedoms, when they go to college, they go to university.
They have no freedoms.
It's a new freedom.
And you, yes, and they don't know how to manage that.
Yeah, so they don't do their work because they get wild,
Yeah. Yeah. There is no main recipe, of course.
Yeah.
Because, but when you tell this, I remember lessons I had in Mexico. And in Mexico, they have many universities which are private and not so big. Yeah, and in one university, they invite parents to come to the hall, and the first thing is that the gymnastics teacher or art teachers make an exhibition and for the parents in the first month or first 2 months of the time the students are staying in this university. So they had the connection between the parents and the university. In our big universities, that is not possible. In Amsterdam, we tried to bring constellation work into university, but we didn't succeed. Because I thought that especially the beginners, this group you speak about,
yes, yeah.
they can be representatives in this constellation work lesson, but the university said no, that is not. So we did it in Munich, and the students like it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
I see somebody has asked here, can you tell the story of doing maths with their parents?
Oh,
Mathematics. Probably
I do
the
not.
story of
Yeah.
when you were doing maths with the parents, the mathematics. How do we say that in German? It's in your book.
Maths, yeah. So
Maths.
how to be better in maths? Yeah, to get
The
support,
parents
yeah?
from your book.
Huh?
From your book, there is a story about doing maths.
Yeah.
Parents of the children in your class.
Yeah. We made we try to become better. The children should become better in Kopfrechnen, in do maths in their head. And I wrote the questions at the blackboard. Yeah, long rows of numbers and divided and multiply and so on. And they had to solve it. And then when they are ready, they had to write it at the back of the blackboard. And we waited until most of them were had finished. And we looked who was right, who was the first one. And then I told them, I tell you what, I have a secret. Now you make this together with one of your parents, or together with somebody who can help you, your bigger brother or whoever. And then you tell me, when are you faster in doing it and finish? When did you finish earlier? And many of them realized that they could do it together with somebody is more easier, yeah, more faster, yeah. And this was a very good thing. We did it sometimes, some weeks, every day, and they could say, today I do it with my brother, or today I do it with my grandfather, or whatever. And so they were much more focused on the helper than on, oh, I have to do it very fast. Yeah, we call it defokussieren. Yeah, the focus went on the helper, and then they realized that they could do it really much easier. And a very nice story I had with a girl when she had to write maths in a test paper, and she was so nervous. Yeah, and then I took a chair and put the chair beside the girl, and I said, here sits somebody who helps you. And she looked at me, and first she was angry, but then, and I insisted, who is sitting here? And then she said, yeah, Mrs. Franke, my grandma is sitting here. She cannot do maths, but she makes me really silent and quiet and no more service, no more nervous.
Oh, amazing. Wow.
Was hat jetzt die Bibi da geschrieben? So schnell kann ich das ja nicht lesen. What did Bibi write from the University Groningen?
So no, Bibi said she's done that. I think she says we do constellations with medical students from the Groningen University to let them have insights about finding their place in new teams, in a new field when they will enter for the first time in real medical field in hospital. So
Wonderful.
we're referring to young adults coming
Yeah.
into a new world, into
Yeah.
universities, into a new way. And
Yeah.
Yeah, I just
Uh-huh.
wanted to react on the one who had this question.
thank you.
Yeah.
That's very helpful.
Yeah.
And
Wonderful. Yeah.
on the chat, you can see there's some insights also from Jane. And I think that it's a very interesting, just having a look if there's any more questions. I'm looking at the chat. Somebody was talking, one important question about, they had a burnout in their they had burnout, and they had to leave in the middle, you know, of the year, I imagine, from what I'm hearing. And she didn't see
A student. Yeah.
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 Well, it was a teacher who got burnt out, got tired, and she had to leave the teaching post, and didn't see them again, and feels like there's something that didn't get closed off. So how would you suggest that they close off for themselves as the teacher of this class?
What is closed off? What is that?
Like round off, you know, because they don't.
He was.
So he felt that he was closed off from, hadn't seen the children again. So how do you have closure because you don't see those children again? He left the class suddenly and then never to see them again because he didn't come back to that teaching post. So it's like he missed them in some way. And maybe that person will explain who put that question out. I'm happy for you to be unmuted and come on.
And Marianne, closed off means abgeschlossen.
Ja, das
Okay.
Abgeschlossen oder abgeschirmt oder abgeschlossen.
Yes.
Ich hab die Frage nicht ganz verstanden. Also, der wollte nicht mehr zu den Schülern zurück, oder wie?
Er kannte nicht zurück, weil er Burnout war und dann war er so abgeschlossen von diesen Kindern.
Ja.
Abgeschirmt, ja.
Abgeschirmt, ja. Und was ist die Frage?
So the question is
what is the question?
The question is what to do to close this. Feels like it's unsettled. There's an unsettling in this person, from what I can gather, because they never saw the children again. So for themselves, I suppose it's a movement that she's asking on how she can close this in herself, that she left suddenly because of burnout, and then she never saw them again because of the burnout, didn't return to the school. So she's feeling unsettled and it's not closed.
Ja. Aber war doch sicher, I think he was in medical, with medical doctors or not?
No, it's a teacher who left.
I want to appear, Marianne.
Yeah.
Because it's my question.
Yeah.
And when I was a young teacher, I was only 5 years in the classroom.
Yeah.
I had a burnout.
Yeah.
And I left my class.
Yeah.
And I never got back to the class. So I didn't have the chance to say goodbye.
Yeah.
And so and it's still, this experience is still coming back.
Yeah, just now. Yeah. And I think, you know, when I hear that, it is never too late. That means you know which school that was, where you left and never came back. You know the school, yeah? And even if it is 20 years ago, go there and go into the teacher's room or to the director and tell him you just came back to ask him whether he wants to hear your story and you want to say goodbye. It is never too late. It's not so easy, I know that. But there was also nobody of the school who asked, oh, who is our young teacher? And please come for one time and we make a party with you. Nobody did that.
No.
Yeah. So you go there. Do it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. That's a very important question, because lots of teachers do burn out, and they, you know, sometimes for any reason, not even burnout. Maybe they have to leave for illness or other reasons, leave the country, and suddenly they're leaving a class that they've, you know, been close to. And I can imagine that that's very difficult for teachers to feel something's not, you know, doesn't feel so safe.
We even did this with students who had to repeat their class and had to leave, and they left the class who went on, yeah? And I very often sent at the beginning of the next term, I sent 3 students into the other class and to ask the teacher that their classmate shall accompany them. We want to say goodbye to him. And they brought him to the class, and we sang a song or whatever, and told him goodbye and have a good time in your new class. Just to finish that. It's always good. The worst I experienced that just comes into my mind was from a Russian refugee. He wanted not to be in Germany, but his grandfather, because he was a German, and then they lived in Siberia, and then Germany, a few of German people who lived in Siberia could come to Germany and live here. So the boy had to come to Munich, and he was so upset. You cannot imagine. I was really in peace with my class, and from that day on, this boy was in my class. The whole class was like under electricity. And I always said to him, Igor, and he said, oh, Mrs. Franke, I don't do anything. He really didn't do anything, but all the class was under electricity. I started to quarrel and so on and so on. And after a while, I said to my director, it's not possible to stay with that boy. I fear for my heart, yeah, because the class is in awful is awful now. But they didn't react, and after a while, I first thought it was a burnout, but it was really a heart attack. I had a heart attack and had to stay at home for weeks. After I came back, the boy was not, Igor was not there. And I said, oh, what about Igor? And they said, oh, he went to his grandfather and he hit him so badly. And now they brought him to what is it? What is that? Where these bad boys
sagen Sie in Deutsch.
In ein Heim für schwer Erziehbare.
Yeah, an institute for difficult behavior.
Yeah. So, and nobody had said goodbye to him. Yeah. So we sat down and we wrote letters. Yeah. letters. Each child wrote a letter. Dear Igor, and we hope it is, becomes better with you, and so on and so on. And one day, the father of one boy came and he said, yes, I drive with my car in the near of this house and I can bring the letters to the house. Yeah, and he did it. And then it was good. Yeah, saying goodbye is, yeah, is necessary.
Wow, wow. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else? I mean, we've still got some time for some questions. If there's any more questions that I'm just seeing if there's Raymond, if there's anything you can see, or if I've missed anything on the chat, please just bring it into this plenary. Or if there's anyone who wants to just come off mute and ask a question, or maybe share a story. I know that Raymond, I just want to put Raymond on the spot. In South Africa, we talking about older students, we've done some work with young students in the high school called JP Girls, and it's a peer mentorship program. So I don't know if Raymond, if you're there, can you just quickly share with us while we're talking about young adults going into and the peer mentorship process? Yeah.
Yeah, so just this idea of honoring parents and having permission. So we work with girls from JP Girls High that are on scholarship program. It's a very upmarket school. And so the kids that come from previously, well, low economic areas. And many of their parents haven't had opportunities the same as they having joining this beautiful school. And part of being inspired by Marianne is the idea of honoring and getting permission or your blessing from your parents to do well. And there was one particular girl that was really struggling, and we did a little movement where her parents gave her the blessing that she could be successful.
Yeah. Yeah, wonderful.
And there was a story, Marianne, in Mexico about all the parents. So when Raymond shares that, just want to go back to you, and I don't know if you recall, there was a story of lining up all the parents in Mexico because the children were not learning well. They were failing in the school.
Yeah.
Can you want to tell that story? Or would you like me to tell that story?
Yeah, I'll tell you.
Okay. Yeah?
Yeah, tell you. You tell the story.
Okay. So the story is, and I remember actually Raquel Schlosser, who's also does work in Mexico with Constellation, shared the same story. But how you were called into the school in Mexico because the children there were not learning well. And what you did was bring all the parents to the school and line up the parents, and there was a ritual where they gave the children a blessing to do better than what they had done. So, and apparently after that, the story is that the children were able to learn freely and felt free to learn and to succeed.
Yeah.
And yeah. That is the story that.
Yeah. You know, our life is full of saying goodbye. It starts with the birth. We say goodbye to the in time 9 months inside of our mother. The birth is the first event where we say goodbye, and sometimes children are crying and so on. Yes, and then they learn a relationship, to be near and then be apart from the beloved mother. Yeah, and to be near and to be apart. Relationship is always a movement between near and not near in distance. And so when the parents in Mexico came to this university, they also knew how far it is, and that the kids really are far away from them. And then it is time for the blessings, yeah, of course. And they did it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Is there any other question? Is that the end, or do we have
the end? I think we're supposed to finish. Am I right? I'm just checking with Alison. Is it 3:50? Is it 15 or 3:30?
3:15. Now it's 3:15.
Yes.
Yeah.
Closing.
We end at 15. Yeah, we end at 15 minutes past.
So that's now.
10 minutes.
No.
Because I wanted to talk about one point. We shall not forget. And I know you do not forget it. That is, when I entered this Congress, yeah, I was overwhelmed, but wonderful work you did. And I could not think that this is so good, yeah. And sometimes I was in tears, and sometimes I was in joy, and yes. When I think, whom did I see, yeah, then I realized at first, oh yes, Jeanette and Bibi, Bibi and Jeanette, Jeanette and Bibi, Bibi and Jeanette. Why? Because I was near with that two women, and I had the remembrance of the whole feeling we had together. Yeah, and we are working. We are working with the body, of course. Yeah, and I only want to say I'm so sorry that we can't do constellations work anymore for yeah, I don't know for what long time. Yeah. And it is wonderful that we have this tool, and it is not that. What is that?
That's the dog to tell us it's time to stop. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's...
Those who talked to me, those came nearer, yeah? Ja, der Raimund zum Beispiel, die Jane. Then I could feel, yes, a little bit more, yeah.
Thank you. Wow, that was very touching also for me.
Mm-hmm. This picture besides me, do you see it? This picture with a bird, do you see it? Yeah. And this picture painted a grandson, my second grandson with 8 years. And he of course, he had this a big poster, but then he said, "Mom, Oma, put the poster away. I paint it now." And then he did it.
Thank you so much.
Now he's 18.
We're going into the next session now.
Okay.
So, everybody is beautiful comments saying thank you very much. I can see that everybody has been very touched by you and your stories, and really honoring of all you've brought to the education world in terms of the systemic practice that you founded in education. So thank you for those beautiful stories. And we're going to go now into the other two sessions, which is one with Sharon Gray in the main session, and the second conference room with Alison Fawn. So I look forward to seeing you all there, and hopefully you'll stay with us, Marianne, today.
Yeah.
That's
Thank you. Thank you too. Thank you all. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
That starts at 9:30, right, Janet?
Yes, 9:30. Yeah.
Yeah. So
9:30 American time and 3:30 South African time.
3:30 South African. Yeah.
30 South
Also
African, Europe, 2:30 UK. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll see you soon.